So ever since the news broke that Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt have been arrested, we've been keeping up to date with the 8 passenger situation. Now, one person we kept mentioning throughout this is Kevin Franke. Obviously, Kevin hasn't been arrested, him and Ruby have been split for over a year at this point, so I think it's clear that he wasn't directly involved in some of the stuff that has happened within the past few months. But that doesn't mean he's innocent by any means, it just means he's not directly involved in this specific situation involving Ruby and Jodi. There's been countless amounts of videos throughout the years that show the type of person that Kevin Franke really is, and he was awful to these children. In fact, the first few years of me talking about 8 passengers, Kevin Franke was just as involved as Ruby. They were together, both living in the same house, and everything that we were criticising throughout them years involved Kevin. But ever since this news broke, Kevin Franke's attorney has tried to make him seem like an absolute angel who could do no wrong, and nobody's buying it. Well, I say nobody's buying it, but if you look at some articles that have been posted within the last month or so, they do try and make Kevin seem like he's not such a bad guy. I mean, here we have an article with the headline that says, "Inside the Ruby Franke case, the YouTube mum kicked husband out of the house, spoke to him 3 or 4 times in a year." Which, yeah, I guess that is true in itself. Ruby kicked Kevin out the house and she wasn't speaking to him. But that doesn't make him innocent, that doesn't make him an angel as much as these articles are trying to make him seem. Kevin optionally decided to not speak to his children throughout the last year or so when it was very clear that there was some worrying stuff happening with Ruby and Jodi. So clear, in fact, that complete strangers like me and many other YouTubers, many other people commenting on this stuff online, noticed that it was incredibly worrying, but for some reason Kevin didn't. I don't buy it. Now, we do actually have some body cam footage from the police regarding Kevin Franke, and if you remember, maybe like, I think a week or maybe 2 weeks ago, we spoke about how Kevin was actually trying to get Sherry charged with burglary, which in itself is mental. But that was just from a new article that had came out, but we actually do have the footage now, which we will get into. But first, I just want us to be reminded of what Kevin Franke's attorney has been trying to tell people throughout the past month or so after this news broke.
Your client was receiving criticism for quite some time over the parenting techniques. What has his response been to that?
There hasn't ever been an allegation that Kevin Franke has ever physically abused his children.
Yeah, so his attorney's been using like very specific wording to try and make Kevin seem good. Now look, I don't know what legally falls under physical abuse, but Kevin and Ruby took away their son's bed for 7 months because he played a prank on his brother. I mean, that's a very physical punishment in itself, like taking away a child's bed for 7 months because he played a prank. And by the way, the prank was just him telling his brother that they were going to Disneyland when they weren't. Like, it's really not that deep. They would also take away their children's food as punishment. They've said that in multiple different videos. I think the most viral case of this was when the teacher rang Ruby saying, "Oh look, your daughter's forgot to pack a lunch for school. She's 6 years old, you know, they forget sometimes." And the teacher carries on by saying, "Look, will you be able to bring some food? I don't want to go hungry." And Ruby's response was, "Oh look, that's going to be the natural consequence. She's going to have to go hungry." This was all at a time when Kevin and Ruby were together, living in the same house, raising their children together. And like I said, I don't know the legalities of it. From everything that we understand right now, it's clearly got a lot worse since Jodi and Ruby have kind of been like living together or seeing each other a lot more and the kids have been there. Clearly that's got a lot worse. Some of the details that we've heard have been absolutely horrifying. But like I've said so many times before, Kevin is not the angel that he's trying to seem like he is on social media right now. Obviously, he's trying to seem this way because he's trying to get custody of the children, but his true colours have been shown throughout the years, but also very recently in his police footage we're going to look at.
There were never any DCFS charges filed. There was never any criminal charges filed, and particularly, and I want to emphasize this, Kevin Franke has never been accused of physically abusing anyone, including his children, nor have there ever been any allegations that he was doing that.
I mean, again, very specific words, and yeah, you can maybe use that as a legality, but the stuff we have seen, there's been physical punishments that didn't need to be there at all. And in fact, it's been so bad throughout the years that as soon as one of your children turned 18, they wanted nothing to do with either of Kevin and Ruby. And yeah, Sherry was definitely a lot more vocal about Ruby during all of this, but when it came down to Father's Day, Sherry made a post on Instagram saying Happy Father's Day. It had nothing to do with Kevin, it was just some more males in her family, like her uncles and whatnot. I think that's a very clear sign in itself where her head was at with Kevin, and I mean, from the stuff we've heard about Kevin recently, you can see why.
He just simply does not condone physical violence or that kind of treatment of children or anyone.
Good dad, man. I don't know if there are many people in the world that would agree with that. If any, in fact. I don't even think he believes this, and I get it, right? It's his job. He's Kevin's attorney. He has to say stuff like this, but I don't even think he believes what he's saying.
The money that they made off of the show I think Ruby had claimed at one point they were making a significant amount of money. Has Kevin ever spoken to you about that, about how profitable that show was?
Kevin was simply giving his earnings to Ruby that were going to support the family.
Yeah, I mean, so from these interviews, his attorneys made it very clear that Kevin just wants the family to get back together and fix everything. So why did he try and file charges against his own daughter? And when he was told that he couldn't do that, he was so annoyed by that news that he then tried to sue the police. He really saw that his family were going through something that is beyond difficult to deal with. I couldn't even imagine what that would be like to deal with. And then he just decided to try and make it even more stressful and was willing to have his own daughter charged with burglary. Makes zero sense. Now, if you didn't see my last video talking about this specific situation, let's just go through the article dead quick. And this is kind of like the first bit of news we saw regarding Kevin and this like filing of a police report. According to a police report, Ruby's husband Kevin, who admitted he hadn't been at the home for more than a year, wanted to file charges against his daughter who went into the home and took some of the property. He was so annoyed that the daughter was allowed to go in the home, she was told she was allowed to go in the home by the police and collect some belongings. He was so annoyed that she took some stuff that he hasn't even used for over a year. He's admitted that he's never been at the house for over a year. He was so annoyed that she took some of the stuff that he clearly didn't care too much about, hadn't used in over a year, that he was willing to file a police report. And he really, really wanted to, clearly. And look, what I'm about to say isn't based on fact, it is just an assumption. I said it in my last video too, but it really does make me think, what is on them devices? The things that she took that he was really pissed off about was like an iPad, a phone, and a journal, I think. I mean, we will get to that part in the article in a second, but that's all stuff that could have a lot of evidence in it. All of it. And the reason why I think that is because I just can't see why you would be so annoyed at your daughter taking some devices that you haven't even used in over a year, especially when your family's going through something completely horrific right now. Her mother has just been arrested for child abuse allegations, and you're willing to get her charged with burglary because she took some of these items that you don't even use. I don't see why else he would take that stance unless there was something on there that he didn't want her to have. But yeah, in case you haven't seen, when the police got a warrant to search the house, they told Sherry that she could go in and collect some of her belongings, right? Turns out she took some stuff that belonged to Kevin, and then this was Kevin's response. Kevin allegedly reported that the electronic items, specifically his electric journals, were missing. He told officers he believes his oldest daughter Sherry is responsible due to a statement she made in court day. The officer told Kevin the front door had been broken in after a search warrant was served days prior and not broken by his oldest daughter. Kevin stated that Sherry is not allowed in the home and that she believes she entered unlawfully and he wants her charged with burglary. Remember, we've literally just seen clips of Kevin's attorney saying that he wants to make the family alright and he wants to have contact with the oldest children. I believe Sherry is the oldest, and I think her and Chad are very close in age. But anyway, she is one of the oldest children, and now that statement that the attorney made makes no sense because Kevin's saying here that Sherry's not allowed in the home and that he wants to get charged with burglary, which I really don't get. The reports mention that Sherry brought the items to Springville Police Department and they were given to Kevin a short time later. This is what we're about to see in the footage, actually. Among the items were 3 tablets, 3 cell phones, 3 camera/GoPros, a stack of written journals, and 3 passports for Kevin, Ruby, and one of the children. Yeah, I forgot about the camera and GoPros when I mentioned that earlier. That's another thing that could have evidence. The complainant was informed we wound not to be charging his daughter with anything as her intent was not to deprive him of any items. She had previously been allowed in the home and he had not been in the home, admittedly, for 13 months, the officer wrote in the report. Again, all items that he didn't care about for over a year. And look, maybe I'd understand if the items never got returned, right? Because they're your items, I guess. But they were returned, and he clearly wanted this to be charged after they were returned. When I first read this article, one thing I was thinking in my head was, oh, so maybe he asked for the items, it was said that they wouldn't be returned. Then he said he was going to try and file a charge for burglary, and then after that, the items were returned. But as we can see by this footage in a second, that's clearly not the case. He still wanted this filed as a burglary, even after the items had been returned. His own daughter, who was going through something that is incredibly traumatic right now. The officer said that he explained to Kevin over the phone that due to circumstances surrounding the incident, we would not be filing charges against Sherry, and that would be considered a civil issue due to her intent not being to deprive him of the items. He, Kevin, advised he was going to sue the police department, the officer wrote. Kevin was displeased with this answer and advised that we would be hearing from his attorney. And then we even get a statement from Kevin's attorney, who's still trying to make him seem great, saying Kevin didn't do either, as in, like, sue the police department or try and charge Sherry with burglary. I mean, it looks like the reason he didn't is because he couldn't. in my personal opinion, especially the charge anyways. We know fine well that he tried to charge her and he was just told that he couldn't do that. He and Sherry are working together on bygones and resuming a loving and healthy father-daughter relationship. Kevin is still trying to understand and correct the upside down world that was dealt him. It's a lot to deal with all at once. Yeah, literally just trying to make Kevin seem like a victim here. But yeah, like I mentioned, we do actually have the body cam footage of Kevin regarding this situation, so let's take a look.
There you go.
Okay, so he's getting the items returned to him. You can see the electronics.
Is it all there?
Yes. Yeah, explain to me again why this was not robbery.
Because it's a civil issue.
Straight away, trying to look into the whole robbery thing, even after the items were returned.
It's, you guys are family. She's been in the house before. You haven't been in the house in a year. She had interest in the items. She didn't take them with the intention to deprive you of them. So theft, that's the theft code. We have to prove intent to deprive you of the items. And that wasn't her intent in having them. So the detective sergeant said that we're not going to charge her for anything.
I mean, look at him. He looks good that he's hearing us right now.
Okay. I'll have to do some more research on that.
I'll have to do some more research on that. Even after he's been told that he can't file any charges against his daughter for burglary, he's not taking that as an answer. He's saying, right, I'm going to try and look into it, try and find a fucking loophole by the sound of it, and still try and see if he can file a charge for burglary. What? I'm genuinely shocked hearing this. Imagine wanting to put your own daughter through that at the best of times. Never mind during this situation that's happening right now, where her mother has been arrested for something that she's been trying to get more known in the public eye for like a year now. And behind the scenes, they've been trying to get the police involved for so long because they're worried about the other children, you know, her siblings. And now, finally, something is happening here. It's so overwhelming. I can only imagine how overwhelming it is. And he's willing to do this. I think it's genuinely disgusting.
You're welcome to do that. If you want to follow up with their detectives, do yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't like him. Just on everything that we've seen, you know, everything that we've spoke about for years now with Kevin Franke, the stuff he has done to this children, the outrageous punishments he's done, like the whole bed situation, you know, the food and everything, stuff that he was very involved in. Like, yeah, we can keep saying that he hasn't been in the house for over a year, but this has been going on for years. For years in the public eye, might I add. Like, God knows what's been happening behind the scenes. Like, if he's willing for that side of him to be shown on camera for millions of people to see, what's been happening behind the scenes. I mean, that's what's happened with Ruby and Jodi, right? They were willing to show this evil side to them for millions to see, and we didn't know what was going on behind the scenes up until recently. I just will personally never buy the narrative that Kevin Franke is an angel, and he's been dealt a fucking bad hand here. I will never buy that. I mean, luckily it seems like no one else is buying it now. I did see like a lot of comments before this news came out that Kevin tried like filing charges against his own daughter, and people were kind of starting to go on Kevin's side and feeling sorry for him, and I can only imagine that's because of this whole like propaganda campaign, it seems like, from Kevin's attorney, and yeah, people were falling for it, and people started kind of feeling sorry for Kevin, saying he wasn't so bad here and all this, and just forgetting what's happened for years, or maybe they just hadn't seen it, maybe they had just heard about 8 passages after the arrest and they weren't too sure about Kevin. Look, we've seen Kevin for years now, we know what he's like, but let's actually have a look through some of the comments on this video. I love police body cams and how they expose the truth. Good luck with the damage control on this despicable display, Kevin. Please, for the love of God, do not let that disgusting excuse for a father have custody of those kids. Hasn't been in contact with most of his kids for months. Seems upset that his daughter isn't getting arrested. What a piece of work this guy is. This horrible man still sees his children as the problem. He only wants to punish Sherry for leaving and calling the cops on his disgusting wife. That's all this is. It's tit for tat. He is being petty and childish because he blames Sherry for Ruby being in jail. He still doesn't believe that Ruby deserves to be where she is. I cannot believe this man. What a piece of garbage. Unbelievable. And this is supposedly a loving father? Scary to think that he might get the kids back. He is a weak, brainwashed individual who needs to heal himself before he endeavours to tackle healing his children. You left those things for over a year and you think it's stealing if someone else moves them and now gives them back to you. You abandon that stuff as much as you abandon your kids. Who would think it would be a problem to take it? His lawyer lied. What a joke that dude is. Kevin better get charged. I mean, his lawyer did kind of lie with that statement saying like he didn't do either of that stuff, you know, he wasn't trying to file charges. I guess, yeah, he didn't file charges, but it's not because he didn't want to. He really fucking wanted to by the sounds of it. So much so that when he was told that he couldn't by legal officers, you know, he was told by the police that he couldn't do this, he was like, nah, I'm not taking that as an answer. I'm gonna research it. Yeah, this is actually really fucking annoying me. When I saw this footage, it was literally just after I uploaded my last video a couple of days ago on 8 Passengers, and I was like, this bloke, man, I think it's mental how he's been going on his campaign, or his attorney's been going on his campaign. I know it's his job, but yeah, not a good guy by any means, man. But yeah, either way, I'm going to leave the video there. I would love to know your thoughts, obviously, in the comment section down below on everything that we spoke about in today's video. And yeah, subscribe if you're new, all that stuff. And until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit. All right, goodbye.